Hey guys, welcome back. Today we have another game of CEDH. This game features what many players often say is the worst thing about MTG, and that's stacks. Often heard is the line, I just want to be able to cast my spells and play magic. Stacks is an interesting strategy, as unlike combo or aggro, whose goal is ending the game as soon as possible, stacks means to do the opposite, to slow the game down. And while not the most powerful strategy, it is still a viable option to play in CDH. But what are your thoughts on it? Do you wish Winter Orb was never a thing? Or is it right to punish those greedy 4 to 5 color decks with a Blood Moon? Or are you just there to play and don't care what you sit down to play against? Let me know in the comments down below. Alright, block there, kill that. Oh, that is trample. Guess I'm just dead on board. Hey, before I start, I wanted to give a shout out to the Weekly Wanderer. They are a weekly newsletter about all things MTG. They do artist spotlights, unusual combos, and even a weekly giveaway. And if you're interested in reading it, I will have the sign up link in the description down below. And best of all, it's free. But what are the decks being run today? Well, starting off, we have Lutz, who brought his Tymna Malcolm Artifact Stax deck. His goal is to lock down the board and whittle his opponents down, gaining advantage from his commanders connecting. Next is Porfs, who is piloting Brago, King Eternal. This is an Azorius control deck that uses lots of fast mana and stacks pieces to slow his opponents down. He relies on Brago to reset his fast mana and gain advantage. Third on the list is Fluff, piloting Tymna. This deck is otherwise known as Blood Pod, and is what's known as a meta-crushing deck. It's a stacks deck that is highly customizable to what you want to hate on. Its goal is to grind the game down and gain advantage, since you know what stacks pieces are coming. Tuned to a specific meta, it can often hold the entire table down, but only if it's tuned properly. And bringing up the rear is Toast. He brought the only non-stacks deck. He's piloting Godo, Bandit Warlord. This is an all-in aggressive mono-red combo list. His goal is to cast Godo and equip a Helm of the Host for infinite Godo tokens and combat steps to take his opponents out. But without further ado, let's get onto the gameplay. Lutz starts off the game by playing and cracking a Flooded Strand for a Tundra, passing after that. Orfs plays and cracks an Arid Mesa for a Tundra, which he uses to cast a turn 1 Soul Ring. Still on the ramp game, he then casts a Talisman of Progress. Fluff plays and cracks a Marsh Flats for a Savannah, and uses it to cast an Elvish Mystic. Toast, not following the fetch train, instead plays an Ancient Tomb for land, and taps it to cast a Prismatic Lens, and then a Jeweled Lotus, and follows it up with a Jeweled Amulet, as to not be outdone by the other player's ramp spells. Lutz plays and cracks another fetch, this one being a Verdant Catacombs, for an Underground Sea, but passes after that. Orfs plays a tapped Hollowed Fountain, and not wanting to play into Lutz's counter magic, passes. Fluff plays a Badlands, and then a Tanglewire.
Ooh, Tanglewire. That's fun.
That's painful.
Well, you know what? I'm trying to stop the Godo.
Hey, yeah, I love Tanglewire.
It enters with 4 fading counters, and he passes after that. Toast unfortunately starts his turn by having to tap down all of his mana rocks due to the Tanglewire, and not having another land to play, just passes after that. Lutz, experiencing the same thing as Toast, taps his permanents and then plays an Isolated Chapel as land and passes. Orfs taps his permanents and then plays a snow-covered island and passes. For those that don't know, you can stack the trigger for Tanglewire to remove a counter and then tap down your permanents, one of which can be the Tanglewire. Fluff does just that, and plays an untapped Overgrown Tomb and then uses it to cast the Sylvan Library. In response to the Tanglewire trigger, Toast puts a counter on the Jeweled Amulet and then taps the rest of his permanents, but still doesn't find a land to play and passes. Lutz has a fast turn by playing an Underground River and passing. Orf plays an Ancient Tomb and then does nothing else for his turn. Fluff does the same trick with the Tanglewire and then triggers his Sylvan Library. He doesn't keep any extra cards and then plays and cracks a Wooded Foothills for a Taiga and passes. Toast taps his stuff and then, finally having the mana to cast spells, casts his Soul Ring and then filters the other colorless into a red to cast a Goblin Welder, passing after that. Lutz plays a Shizo Death Storehouse and then taps out to play one of his commanders, Malcolm, Keen Eye Navigator, passing after that. Porf plays another snow-covered island and then casts the Supreme Verdict, and then an Omen of the Sea to scribe both to the top and draw a card. At Porf's end step, Fluff flashes in an Aven Mind Sensor. Fluff on his turn triggers the Tangle Wire and then activates his Sylvan Library. He takes 8 to keep 2 extra cards, and then on his main phase he casts a Rest in Peace. He moves to combat and swings the Mind Sensor at Toast, passing after that. Toast taps one thing down, and then not having any other plays, passes. Lutz taps his land down and then plays a Hall of Heliod's Generosity as land for turn. He then casts an Arcane Signet and uses it to cast an Aura of Silence. It resolves and he passes. Porf taps down his Ancient Tomb and then plays an Inventor's Fair as land for turn. After, he casts his commander, Brago, King Eternal, passing after that. Fluff finally removes the last counter off the Tangle Wire and then triggers Sylvan. Not liking what he sees, he only takes 1 card. He plays a Nurturing Peatland.
Is it weird that I love playing against Stax?
Yes.
And then moves to combat, swinging the Mind Sensor at Toast. But before damage, Toast tries and Galvanic Blast the Aven. Since the Aven is keeping Toast from comboing, Fluff casts a Deflecting Swat, which swerves the blast at Brago. Not wanting his commander to die, Porf pays 2 life to Mental Misstep the blast. Having no other response, the Mind Sensor hits Toast, and then on his second main, Fluff casts a Bloom Tender, passing after that. Toast plays a Metal Worker, paying the 2 extra from the Aura of Silence, and passes after that. Lutz plays a Cephalid Coliseum as land for turn, and then casts his other commander, Tymna the Weaver, passing after that. Porf starts his turn by casting his Back to Basics. While Lutz debates trying to stop it, he figures he can use his Aura of Silence when it gets back to his turn. Porf then heads to combat, swinging Brago at Lutz, and then blinks his board to reset his mana rock and scries. He scries one to the top and the other to the bottom. He draws and then passes. Fluff goes to untaps.
I will go to my untap. Dick. I'm going to Sylvan
You're
Library.
playing Stax.
I am playing Stax. How am I supposed to resolve anything?
And Sylvan's only keeping 1. He taps his Bloom Tender to cast an Arbor Elf. He heads to combat, swinging the Aven at Toast, and passes after that. Toast plays a basic mountain and then taps his Metal Worker. He reveals 3 artifacts for 6 mana. He uses 4 of it to cast his Conqueror's Flail. He equips it to the Metal Worker, and at his end step, Lutz sacrifices the Aura to kill the Back to Basics, and after it resolves, Toast casts a Final Fortune to take an extra turn. However, because it's still his turn, they can't counter it due to the Flail. On his extra turn, Toast taps the Metal Worker for 4 colorless, then taps more to cast a Starstorm to clear the Aven Mind Sensor. After, he casts his commander, Godo, Bandit Warlord, and on ETB, he finds a Hammer of Nazan, which auto-equips to Godo. He finishes it up by casting the Helm of the Host, which, thanks to the hammer, also auto-equips to Godo. He heads to combat and makes a hasted Godo token, who attacks and causes another combat, where he makes another Godo token and the cycle repeats, taking out the table. Game review. This was an interesting game. Almost every player except for Godo was playing some form of Stax, and that early Tangle Wire definitely slowed things down. Lutz definitely should have fought over that Back to Basics, or at the very least not used the Aura when he did. However, hindsight is 2020, and it was very unlikely Godo had that 1 card, the Final Fortune, that would have let him combo off. Godo did a wonderful job of weaving his plays through the Stax pieces, and it definitely shows that mastering a deck when play lines aren't so straightforward. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay, and if you did, leave a like and consider subscribing, as it really helps us keep making videos. And remember, never give up, even if you're dead on board. I'll see you guys later.